Well, hello everyone. Welcome to the Season 4 award show for the Reddit League. We've had an amazing season. We had a new champion, and I'm excited to get into some interesting stats and performances. How are you doing, Calamity?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm doing great. Yeah, we've got a pretty nice lineup for you here. We went through in a couple of different categories and picked our favorite players, and we've also got some nice stats to show off in this one. So let's jump right into these with our first award, which is going to be Best Newcomer. And my pick for that is Solar Sensei in Division 4. Didn't have the best season, but he did pretty well. His stats were really nice, Calamity. I think you can see there. No perfect games, but 21 aces and a pretty good high score. Definitely for that. It was kind of between him, and Subcurist. Subcurist had a really good run in Division 5, but it was that total score for me. And Solar Sensei was second best in all of Division 4, even though he was only mid-table in Division 4A. So
yeah, Solar Sensei definitely had a decent season in terms of his own performances. Just a bit unlucky with going up against the wrong people at the wrong time. Was at the end 3 points away from getting into the promotion playoff and only ended up in 6th. And yeah.
A bit unfortunate. And your pick, Calamity, is Blinky. No surprise.
Yeah. I still do think that Blinky played a bit worse than I would have expected before the season. But he did finish in the top 4 as a newcomer in Division 1. Of course, he did get a bit lucky to end up there in the end with, only getting there on terms of perfect games being the tiebreaker, with Verdok having a better score difference and the same amount of points, as well as only being 1 point ahead of Mr. Blue, who himself, I think, messed up the final day of the season completely with the second lowest score, and otherwise would have taken that spot away from Blinky as well. But still, playoff in his first season should be rewarded, and he also did have the third highest score in the semi-final. So technically, if you want to go that way, he would have finished third. And yeah, I was thinking about mainly Sepkist and Tychonicus as the other two, but at the end, even though they both kind of dominated their division in the sense of, getting the most points by far, both of them didn't really do too much higher than anyone else in terms of score difference. Like Tychonicus had the highest score difference in his total score, in his division, but only by like 50 points over Diesel, and a lower score total score than Faraban and Solar Sensei from the other division. And Sepkirst did have the second highest score as well, beating out everyone in Division 5B, but still, they had a lot of results going their way. Both of them finished with 27 points. So technically, if you ignore like added bonus points, out of 9 games, 27 points, that's pretty much the maximum you could normally get. But yeah, in the end, it was just basically the way that they only dominated in points and not any other stat. And then to top that off, they're in Division 4 and Division 5, so the level is a bit lower. And in the end, if they had performed like that in a higher division, maybe I would have taken one of them. But it's, Division 1 in the end that made the difference for me.
Yeah, it is kind of hard. Like we say, well, the best newcomer should really be the one who's in the highest division and did the best. But, there are players who, for their level, are really outperforming their competitors. And I think there are some people in the lower divisions who, compared to their peers, at least, were far and away the best in their group. And yeah, Blinky for sure was phenomenal in Division 1, and we hope to have a really good season from him next time around in Season 5 and see if he can't claim a title in that next season. So we also have a few interesting stats for you here, and we're going to take a look at a couple here. We have our score difference performers, and for the first one, the largest score difference, it was to Subcurist. No surprise, he was almost our pick for best newcomer, and this is kind of one of the reasons why, Calamity, plus 22,194 over his next opponent.
Yes, and just for so that everyone is on the same page here, I did for these stats take out the games against red carded opponents, obviously, because that's free score difference that a different player in a different division can't get. You could argue that if he had played that against someone who'd actually played their game, and he might still have made a positive score difference and increased his score difference, but either way, he did finish on top in that stat with relatively small margin, only about 700 points more than Faraban had, division higher up. For Faraban as well, he didn't have any red carded opponents in his division as well, so that's like a clear stat. But yeah, Sepkirst had a great season with 9 wins as well. He didn't have any games where his score difference could have gotten smaller at all, so that helps, of course. But yeah, definitely a great stat for him.
And at the other end of things is Hexalt, a longtime player in Reddit League, and only 64 points above his total opponents. So just by the skinniest of margins, he comes out on top. His season, he did finish in the promotion playoffs, but then kind of didn't really go anywhere from there. So not too bad of a season, especially given his start, Calamity.
Yeah, definitely a decent season from him. As you said, finished in the playoffs by virtue of finishing third in his division. Although again, similar story to Blinky, just in third based on his one perfect game that he had with a smaller score difference and the same points as H-Town just below him. And yeah, then kind of fizzled out in the playoffs. Didn't really do too well there. Although it was Singapore, so. It's a bit of a probably if you're not going to find one location, you're going to drop a lot of points. So it's a score maybe looks worse than it actually was. And yeah, I kind of thought about do I want to include an award for the lowest score difference in the sense of the highest negative one? But I thought no, it doesn't deserve an award. It's also difficult as well to what do you do with red carded players? Do you take that out as well and stuff like that? So I thought, you know what, the closest to 0 deserves an award.
Yeah, I mean, that really shows that, even though you're not having the best performances, you still, on average, are outscoring all of your opponents, which means that sometimes it's a little bit of luck that goes your way, and, you can have a decent season even without getting the biggest scores, for sure, because he had, only 4 wins total? 3 draws
Yes.
and 2 losses, and he was still in that promotion spot. So that really shows that, you just have to be better than your opponent, and just a few points better is really all you need over the course of a season to get up in that position. Well, our next big award is the best relegated player. So every season, players who perform the worst are bumped down to the lower division, and they have a chance to get redemption. And the best player from this season who did that was by no competition at all for you and me, Calamity, Schluty.
Yeah, partly no competition at all, because a lot of players who actually got relegated or would have gotten relegated last season didn't return this season. If you look at Division 1, basically the relegated players were Kevin, Equinox, and Schluty, out of which only Schluty returned. For Division 2, it was Radox and Seppo, whereas both of them fought against relegation as well in Division 3 this season. In Division 3, it was Fios and 2 red-carded players, and Fios again fought mostly mid-table, but also against relegation in Division 4 this season. In Division 4 last season, it was just 3 red-carded players and GRH, who then didn't return. And obviously, if you get relegated out of Division 5, you're no longer here either. So basically, it was Schluty up against people who then fought against relegation as well. And Schluty himself did well this season. I did say at the start of the season a couple of times how I wasn't really sure how well he was going to do, because he'd kind of had a similar career, in quotation marks, so far as Radox did, where he was always kind of fighting against relegation. And for people like that, it's difficult to really tell how they would do in a promotion fight. But Schluty did pretty well. Almost made it back to Division 1, made it into the playoffs. and just kind of on the last day lost a match against me, which was of no real importance for me anymore, which kind of bumped him out of the automatic promotion spots. And then in a game against Pluki in the promotion playoff, a good score from him, but not good enough to beat Pluki. So it'll be another season in Division 2 for him. But he's definitely a strong candidate for promotion next season too.
Yeah, definitely. He's kind of been always in that Division 1, and we hadn't really seen what he could do in a lower division, and he showed he still definitely probably deserves to be in Division 1. A very good Division 2 player, just a bit unlucky not to earn promotion. And so yeah, take nothing away from him, because there weren't too many other players in his category to even win this award, but that doesn't mean he didn't have a pretty amazing season. Missed out on a perfect game, but yeah, 24,989 is your best game, and over 23,000 for your average score is pretty decent for a season, for sure. So our next little stat break here is the biggest and smallest wins. And we'll start off with the biggest win, which was Vincenzo in Division 5 over Nabend. A pretty big win, 17,887 points above his opponent. And it took place in Saskatchewan, Calamity.
Yeah, it's difficult to say at this point whether Nabend had already kind of given up on his season there. I think it was kind of like week 7, if I'm not wrong, in Saskatchewan. Yes. So Nabend already knew he was in a pretty bad spot. And maybe he'd kind of given up on the seed. Maybe he just didn't practice at all and then did badly. But still, Vincenzo got a pretty good score there. I think Nabend got about 5,000 points. So Vincenzo got 23,000. 23,828, actually. I did write it down. Runner-up in that category, in maybe a bit more, serious matchup, was Nakiro, who beat Porksteaks by 13,500 points in Japan. So that was very early on in the season. So at least, both of them at least took it seriously.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, very nice. And our award for the smallest win goes to Soviet Spy over Pwn Noob, only 102 points. And remember that 100 points was the draw limit. So he basically only got 2 points in that safe zone for that win. And yeah, a really close game. And this one was in Africa.
Yep. And Soviet Spy actually 25k that, so a very unfortunate game for Pwn Noob, who played first, and I think if I remember right, he was in Discord, he was like, I got 24,898 or something like that. I think he didn't actually mention his score, but if I lose this game because Soviet Spy gets a perfect score, and yeah, he did. Thankfully for Pwn Noob, at the end of the season, it didn't actually matter. He still managed to stay in Division 4. I think. Did he? Or did he get relegated? I'm not sure anymore.
I think he's still.
Because the it's actually not complete on the
that's right, yeah.
sheet. So I'm not sure. Let me see if I actually played that seed. Yes, he did beat Fios. I don't know why the sheet's not complete. But well, the season's long over, so it doesn't really matter anymore. But yes, managed to beat Fios by 900 points there. So it didn't matter for him, but still a very unfortunate result there in Africa. And the second smallest margin was Sepkirst against Mr. Fish, which was 105 points in an improved world. That, again, not the most relevant. Mr. Fish got relegated anyway, even with a win, wouldn't have been enough. And Sepkirst, even with a loss there, would have still finished first in Division 5. But yeah, another very close game.
Very close game. Very nice. Okay, our next award is the best promoted player. So the best player who, after moving to a new division, really excelled and shone despite being around some more tougher competition. My pick is, at least for me, I think should be no surprise, is LCN in Division 3, up from Division 4. He only got promoted, Calamity, in the promotion playoff spots last season, but he really dominated, took top spot in Division 3, which, as we know, very tough competition. 2 perfect games. Ace is a little bit lacking, but a decent average score. And yeah, just really for me, flew under the radar, perhaps. Nothing really shown out about him other than the fact that he dominated a division where he was only barely entered it the season before.
Yeah, I definitely think it's a fair pick.
Mm-hmm.
This award was super difficult for me to decide. There were like 4 or 5 players who all had a fair shout at it. The main reason why, small spoiler, I didn't pick LCN was because, as you said, he kind of flew under the radar a bit,
Mm-hmm.
and the main reason for that was that his total score wasn't anything that impressive. He was only fourth in that regard in his division, and therefore, he got the wins along the way, but didn't really do anything too outrageous. Maybe slightly lucky with his opponents on occasion. I definitely think it is impressive how, as you said, he only just about got into Division 3 in the first place via the playoffs. But, that would more so for me be an indicator of, maybe most improved rather than, the best promoted player in the
Mm-hmm.
first place.
Fair enough. So then let's check out what your pick would be for this then. And it is, yeah, a very nice pick indeed. Probably my second one, Firebond, who has been really climbing the ranks ever since he joined last season.
Yeah, and as I said, it was a super difficult decision for me. My end decision after, eliminating a couple players where I thought, pretty good, very good season, but maybe not the most impressive.
Mm-hmm.
Decision was between him and Max for me. And Max did an amazing job as well. Had a rough start to the season, uh, lost a lot of points in the first, I think, 3 or 4 weeks, but came back to almost get promoted at the end. Had 3 perfect games as well. A really, really great season. And if he had just started a bit better, then he would have probably been a clear favorite for that award. But Faraban has just been great throughout. Had the by far highest total score of Division 4. Um, Also, had a perfect game as well in there. So I just think had also one of the most aces in the whole league with 33. So I think he was fourth or fifth in that category. And you got to remember that he only had 9 games to do that, other than, instead of 11 games like Division 2 and 3 had. And yeah, a combination of aces as well as total score was what did it for me in the end.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we saw his ace potential last season in Division 5, and he just kept going at it in Division 4. The time really didn't slow him down at all. Working with a smaller time limit, it didn't affect him. And yeah, definitely going to see what he can do in Division 3 next season. Everybody really needs to pay attention to him because he's probably, I would say, a contender to maybe get promoted for 3 straight seasons,
Yeah,
as long as the
definitely.
time limit doesn't affect him. Our next little stat is, as we mentioned, Farbon was just down the pecking order a bit in this one, but is the most aces, and it goes to them Freckles. And not surprising in the fact that they did have a few more games than every other division. But the other players who had actually fewer games were not too far behind Calamity.
Yeah, definitely. Freckles takes it with 37, but also, runner-up for that stat was Boxer with 35, who had 2 less games. So if you remove the aspect of, having more games, then it would actually be Boxer who had the most aces per game at 3.8 recurring, just ahead of Raidman and Faraban, who both had 3.6 recurring aces per game. But, sometimes you just get more games and you get more aces that way, and then you get the award. That's just how it is.
Yeah, I mean, Freckles did have a pretty decent season. He did finish in top 3 in Division 3 and had 3 perfect games. So that's where a lot of those aces came from, were those perfect games. And what was 3 perfect games the most
I
of
don't think
anybody?
so. I think Raidman, yeah,
Did
Raidman
Raymond
had
have
four in,
five?
in Division
4. Okay,
4.
so
Yeah, with 2 games less to do it in.
yeah,
Um,
that's really nice. Yeah. So, but yeah, just in kind of pure numbers, anyways, Freckles does stand out with those aces. So he'll be
mhm.
looking to improve on that for next season for sure. Is he still in Division 3?
Yeah, he kind of
Yeah, he lost the promotion decider.
yeah, he's almost looked at the start of the season. He looked like he might shake off his inconsistencies from basically any season prior to this, where he'd sometimes get amazing games and then he'd just go missing for a couple of weeks.
Mhm.
But towards the end of the season, well, it all went wrong again, and he sort of fell out of an already kind of almost secure, in quotation marks, automatic promotion spot, and then on top of that, lost the promotion decider by 34 points.
Yeah. So a bit rough. He'll be looking though. Those high number of aces definitely point to a strong player who just needs a little bit of luck to go his way one of these seasons for him to get out of that Division 3. So our final category, and I think really for both of us, this is probably the biggest award we can give out in the sense that it is our most improved player. Yes, we've got players who win championships, people who go undefeated, who have amazing seasons, but really what we love to see is a player really surprise us, to come kind of beat the expectations. And this season for me, it was M the Baseman. I really think that, especially talking to him, his expectations were, you know what? I like middle of the table Division 2. I'm happy with middle of the Division 2 table. And, he wasn't expecting much from him. And I would probably have said the same. Like, yeah, he's going to be a strong performer, not going to face relegation, but I wouldn't look at him for promotion. And yet he finished second. One perfect game, 23 aces. His total score, maybe nothing to be too happy about, but he just performed in the right weeks and takes the second automatic promotion spot right behind you, Calamity. Only one draw was the difference between you two over the course of the whole season. So
I was 5 points ahead of him, so I don't know what you mean by one draw was the difference.
in the
Oh,
standings, right?
yeah, okay. Yeah, fine.
Yeah, I think you
yeah.
got, your bonus points and whatnot boosted you up, but
You did forget, by the way, to put one more source on there, on the screen. Kind of missing something there.
oh yeah, it didn't export correctly, so
Okay.
it's a mistake. Yeah, I know.
All right. Yeah, so he did have a pretty good season, definitely. As you said, his total score not that amazing. If you compare it, I think he had the sixth highest total score out of the division, so not too far away from his performance of last season, where I think he had the sixth highest total score as well. But yeah, just a bit luckier in quotation marks this season, I guess. He also did have a perfect game for, I think, the first time in his Reddit League career. Although let me quickly just check season 2. Yes, for the first time in his career. Definitely a nice season for him. As you said, he didn't really think much of his chances of getting promoted or anything. He kind of was just like, yeah, if I don't get relegated, I'm fine with it. And in the end, again, as I said before, kind of lucked his way into promotion a bit with Pluk and Schludi kind of just losing steam on the last day of the season and falling behind him. But yeah, he did finish up second, and it'll be interesting to see how he'll do next season in the Division 1.
Yeah, the other thing that you mentioned that he did do better, but only slightly, but he did outperform his last season's performance in every category, right? He didn't have any perfect games. He had fewer aces. He had a lower average score, a lower total score, lower points. So any stat that you looked at, he did jump up. So there wasn't a bit of, oh, he improved in this one and then didn't improve in that. That really also surprised me when I was going through some of my candidates. Was he even if it was only slightly better, he improved across the board. So I kind of wanted to highlight that you don't really often see that in a player in all the different categories of stats that we keep track of for that. So I was really impressed. Yours, I think, is also well deserved. It is Orpheus in Division 1, getting his way into the playoffs and a shot at the championship, but it didn't quite work out for him this season.
Yeah, if you just looked at the table, compared last season to this season, you'd probably be like, well, he went from 5th and just out of the playoffs to just into the playoffs in 3rd place, and then dropped out of the semi-final immediately. But if you just look at every stat apart from that, he only had the 8th highest total score in season 3. Kind of got a bit lucky there to even be as high as 5th in the first place, and then improved massively towards this season with the 2nd highest total score in all of Division 1. And if you look at the level that is Division 1 currently, that's a fantastic stat. And especially surprising to go from like eighth highest total score to second highest total score in a division as competitive as this. And even then, only 180 points behind Raidman, who had the highest total score. The one negative in quotation mark factor that he might still need to work on is that he didn't have a single perfect game compared to Raidman's 4. So he was very, very close to perfect games quite often, but he just couldn't pull it off in the end. Maybe it's nerves getting to him where he's like, oh, I've got 4 aces, maybe I can, and then he just gets a bit too stressed. But if he can get that as well, then he's definitely lock in for the playoffs again next season for me. And maybe it's nerves as well that then made him, I don't want to call it fail because, no one who made it to the championship playoffs failed, but his relatively poor performance compared to the other 3 semifinal competitors was maybe due to a bit of nerves as well. And if he gets in there a second time, maybe he'll manage to improve on that as well, and he can be a real candidate for a title someday.
Yeah, it just kind of really shows you that the standings in the divisions don't always tell the whole story. There's lots of interesting stuff going on in the stats. I think it's really crazy. His average score is 180 points lower than his best game. So he was pretty much at the top of his performance ceiling every single game, every week, which is really impressive for him. And we definitely hope to see him in the championship playoff next season, in season 5. So we'll see how he does next time around, and hopefully M the Basement can keep his good form going as after his promotion with you to Division 1. So that should be a very interesting thing to see next time around. Yeah. Well, that's all the awards we've got for you today. Thank you all for watching. Did we miss anything? If there's any awards you feel like we didn't give out or you don't agree with us, please let us know in those comments below. We'd love to see what kind of stats and awards you would like to see added to this award show, and who you think were some of the best players from this season across any division. And so, yeah, share your thoughts with us down below. And yeah, we'll see you all next season in season 5.
Bye.